Yeah, sorry, I think it might take a second. Yep, I'm recording right now. Yeah, so just before we get started, this is Jennifer. I'll allow her to introduce herself like in a bit, but we're very fortunate to have her because last year, fun fact, from last year's hackathon, one of the biggest workshops that people enjoyed the most was design thinking because they felt like it was crucial in helping them identify what exactly they needed to work on, what exactly they wanted to target in terms of the problem, and therefore make a very effective solution. So Jennifer, she's been nice enough to say yes to doing this design workshop. She's a colleague of the workshop leader from last year on this design thinking. So we're very fortunate to have her. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to let Jennifer take the stage. And also, if you have any teammates that have not logged into Teams, we highly recommend that they do so because you guys will have questions. And she'll be nice enough to also answer some questions as well. So yeah, I'll stop talking and I'll pass it to you.
Thank you so much, Justin. And it's so good, so nice to be back. Last year was a blast. We had a lot of fun time talking about design thinking and then answering people's questions. So hopefully this year we'll do the same. And for people who are missing out on this one, they might want to watch the recording because in my opinion, it's very, very critical for your hackathon. Right, so hopefully you'll get something out of this. Last year, we have learned that a couple of the students on the workshop already learned design thinking before. So I'm sure some of you in the audience have exposure to it or even maybe tried it out before already, and that's perfect. And this workshop will become more of a refresher to hear about different methods because there's just so many different kind of ways to do design thinking, but the basic principles are the same. And for people who have not heard of it or have not learned about it, don't worry, this is also for you. We're gonna go through the basics, the foundations of it, and give you a couple of basic tools and templates that you can use directly in the next week. All right, so let's get started. Let me see if I can move my slide. All right, so again, this session is about introducing design thinking, and it's really to help you get started very, very quickly. A little bit about myself, just as a self-introduction. Currently, I am working for a global company known for advertising called Ogilvy. They are the biggest business they have is advertising. However, they also have a consulting arm, which I am in, and I handle the experience design consulting. So a little bit of my background. When I was a student, I actually was very, very much interested in arts, fine arts and applied arts. I wanted to be architect or movie director when I grew up. Of course, having Asian parents, both of my parents are Taiwanese. They kind of vetoed my idea of being movie director or architect. They say, well, how do you feed yourself, right? They want me to have a proper quote unquote career. So I went through design school. So I learned about multimedia art, learned a little bit about interaction design, learned coding. So it's really a multidisciplinary field of design, and worked as a designer for a couple of years. Then I went back to business school. Now I am more in the crossroad of looking at design strategy and also user experience, customer experience design. All right, so and also known as design and innovation consultancy. So this is a relatively new field, but I think for you guys, this generation, this is probably a much bigger field right now. And it's such an interesting field because you get to combine so many different aspects of learning. It's not just design. You have to learn about strategy. You have to learn about interface. You have to learn about coding and just merge every field together. All right, so today's session, we're going to spend about 90 minutes. We understand that everyone here is joining in a hackathon, right? So the goal of a hackathon is really to find an innovative solution to solve a real problem, a real need in the education space, right? So I believe that this year is the topic is quite broad, so you have a lot of flexibility to play with it in what focus area you want to do in education, but it's really, really critical to think about what exactly is a real problem that you're solving, and then think about what is the innovative solution. So how do we start? All right, so the make part is probably more easily understandable. I think all of you probably already have some ideas in how you're going to prototype it out, whether it's building a website, building an app, building a prototype, right? So these are ways to make your ideas tangible. But there are steps before it. We do need to, logically, we need to observe what is the problem that we want to solve. Secondly, we want to reflect on how to best solve the problem and what are some innovative ideas to solve the problem. And then we can go to make, right? So the make usually comes a little bit further. And we really want to spend proper time in step 1 and step 2 before we jump into make. All right. If at any point you have any questions, please just put it in the chat. I will try to pay attention to the chat room, or you just have any comments, any reflections on the material, okay? And throughout, almost forgot to mention, it would be great if you have some Post-its with you. If not, then any paper is fine. Some pen, ideally Sharpie, some marker. If not, then pen, normal pen is fine as well. I also have some just paper. These are just like recycled paper that I don't want to use anymore, but it will come in handy later on. All right. Okay, first of all, when you heard of the term design, what came to mind? What do you think design mean? Anyone have any answer? Put it in the chat or shout it out. Both are fine. A lot of time I told in a dinner party, family dinner party with my uncle, for example, and they was like, oh, you're in design, you're working in the design industry. Are you a fashion designer? Are you an interior designer? I was like, no, none of those. So I think design is in general perceived as a more limited field in things that people often heard about, like fashion design, product design, interior design. Any answers from the audience? Oh, I see a raising hand. Saad?
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce your name?
Ma'am, yeah, am I audible? Hello?
Hi, yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, ma'am, I think according to my opinion, design thinking is to think out of the box. It means just like a fashion designer, same just like every year iPhone give different kind of designs. So I think design thinking is to think out of the box, out of the way, not simple just like everyone think. So we need to find an innovative solution, innovative ideas according to my perspective. Maybe I am wrong.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. It's about thinking out of the box, finding different perspective of looking at a problem, right? And then solve a problem creatively. I think that's definitely a large part of design. So thank you so much for that. I see in the chat room, Rumi also said design is producing an artistic plan or idea. That is also a very good answer. Design definitely has a lot of aesthetic and artistic element to it. Most of the design field has. And then some design field actually lesser known, but it does not have that much of an aesthetic element in it. For example, business design, for example, design strategy, right? So they are really applying creative problem solving, but not in a authentic aesthetic or artistic sense. So it is a good definition, and I would even broaden it a little bit. All right. Thank you so much for the input. So design, a more official definition is that it's really do or plan with a purpose or intention in mind. Don Norman is in the design field. He is probably the early father of design foundations. And this book, The Design of Everyday Things, are probably Design 101 textbook that every design school student need to study. So if you ever want to get into this field for any reason, this is a great book to start. And they talk about what does design with intention mean. But in my interpretation, is really about creative problem solving. Right? Steve Jobs, of course, he's an iconic designer. And Steve Jobs also said that most people make the mistake of thinking design is what it looks like, right? But that's true, but it's not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. Just like iPhone, yes, it looks cool, it looks nice, but it's really what's differentiating it is really how it works, the ease of it and the ecosystem behind it as well. All right, so here I'm going to just tell a story, share a story of this famous designer, Doug. He works for GE Healthcare, so he's a design principal there, and he has spoken at some TEDx. So he's in the design field. And he won a lot of design awards as well. So he has shared one of his design project before at GE. This is a quite probably the last decade, so a little bit old, but at that time, the MRI machine was not very sophisticated, right? And it doesn't look, it's just a gigantic, scary machine. So Doug wants to change that. So he spent probably 2 years working with the engineers, really understand the mechanics of the MRI machine, and came up with this beautiful, sleek, futuristic design, a new MRI machine, especially great for working with smaller body types like kids, right? So this is a revolutionary piece of art and technology combined. And they even won a lot of awards, such as the Global Award for International Design Excellence Award, right? So they're very, very excited. They pour a lot of hearts and sweat into this, and they want to launch it to market, right? But they didn't realize the thing that they would learn when it hits the hospital. So they first put it in one of the test pilot children's hospital in the States. So what happened is that the adoption rate is very low. Actually, the doctor didn't use this machine as much. They rely on other methods or older machines. And it's because that although it's so sleek and it looks so new and everything, but for kids, it actually feels very, very scary. And this is, it feels to them that it's a gigantic machine that they're gonna be sucked into, and then they cannot move. And what happened is that none of the kids can stay still because they are too scared. So it just creates a lot of problem, and it's just not very usable, right? So Doug was very frustrated. He didn't think of this in the beginning. So he went to D School at Stanford. D School stands for Design School. And he learned about this whole design thinking, human-centered approach. He collaborated with this cross-functional teams. During his time there, he also ideated on a lot of different ways to improve this problem, right? So one of the things he learned is that he really needs to get into the minds and daily behaviors of children, and also learn from children caretakers like kindergarten staff, right? To really understand how to design for children. So he actually reached out to the children's museum, the children's doctors, the kindergartens, and actually just sat there and observed how the staff interact with the kids, and how the staff help kids work through their anxieties, their emotions in any kind of situations, right? So from the observations, he actually learned a lot about the children's mindset and how to design for it. So the solution, that he came back, look at his design, and think about, okay, what can I do? Instead of designing a new kit machine that works, he realized that, okay, it's not about the machine itself, but it's about the storytelling, the contextual environment for the kids to be relaxed and for the kids to understand what to expect and what the kid need to do, right? So he designed these different scenarios. He called it the adventure series, right? So there are, some of them are pirate ships, some of them are submarines, and then there are not only the whole room, the walls and floors and the machine inside the machine are decorated in that theme, but also there is a plot. So before the kids go in, the hospital staff will tell them that, oh, you are about to go into a certain theme, for example, the pirate ship, and you have to stay very, very still when you lie on it, because if the pirates see you, you won't be able to find the treasure. And if you can lie very still after you come out of the machine, you will find the treasure, and so on and so forth, right? So there is a very enticing and engaging storyline for the kids to be engaged in. And usually when the kids come out, they get a certain kind of surprise. It can be that they find some treasure or something that's related to the theme. So he actually not just designing the machine, but designing the whole experience of how the user might interact with it. And that is essentially a core part of design thinking. It's like you can be a great engineer, you can build the best in class, world-class machine or a piece of equipment ever. But if you do not consider the user experience, at the end of the day, it might not be as usable to your target user. Right, so this is another, it's a video I'm gonna play. I hope the sound works. So let me know if you cannot hear the sound. But this is a Hong Kong. I want to show something that's more local. So this is a Hong Kong case that also applied design thinking to look at how to help people pick the right toothpaste, because there's so many toothpaste on the shelf. How do you know which one is the best for you?
On average, Watson's shoppers spend 3 minutes, 3 seconds at the oral care shelf, but often walked away from purchasing a pack. So, why is it so difficult for shoppers to choose a toothpaste? A collaborative effort between Watson, Colgate, and Refuse set about solving this problem in an innovative way.
Oops. Oh, sorry about that. Not sure what happened.
On average, so why is it so difficult for shoppers to choose a toothpaste? A collaborative effort between Watson, Colgate, set about solving the problem. We started by listening to shoppers. The shelf looks different every time I shop. I find products by color. I have a product in mind, but can't find it. This helped us identify 2 types of shoppers. Browsers who have no defined product in mind, but look for inspiration, reassurance, and value. And the pre-planners who know what they want, but can't find it quickly. Both shared a common problem. I can't find the best product for me. We needed a quick finder system. We started to ideate, build prototypes, and tested them with shoppers and store staff for instant feedback. The final solution was as simple as switching on a light bulb.
Did it stop?
Lighting up the products they wanted on the shelf. The Oral Care Quick Finder connects a digital touchscreen to gravity-fed light boxes, which inspires browsers and directs pre-planners to the packs they want. What shoppers said,
都容易啊，好清楚啊，清楚係咯，好簡單啫嘛。
I think it helps me to look for what I want, quicker and convenient.
It helps me to find what I need quickly.
And this is what the store staff had to say.
I like the new design. It's convenient. It's easy to restore. It helps me.
都揾得到，佢應該 想要嘅嘢咯，想要嘅 product 可以。
佢會比較清晰啲嘅係揀得，即係佢容易揾到咯嚇，慳咗時間。
Now, where's that toothpaste?
All right, so you can see that very similarly, right? In that toothpaste example, they talk to the customer. They really want to understand how the customer shop for it, identify the problem, and then design for it and build something that solves the problem. Okay, so really design thinking is learn how to solve the problem like designers. So it is a framework. It has a lot of different tools and techniques in approaching the problem and help people think outside the box. And the reason that design thinking is so popular right now is that businesses start to understand that, okay, this is not just for designers. For businesses, it's actually very, very powerful. So businesses all over the world, right, have been using design thinking, not only in their design team, but throughout their whole organization. You can see articles in Harvard Business Review, in a lot of business media, also talking about how powerful design thinking can be. Okay, what are the principles of design thinking? So if you don't remember anything from today's session, if you can just remember the 3 principles, which is kind of, wow, my Apple Watch just talked to me. It would be the fundamentals of design thinking. If you can just remember these 3 things, and then I think the rest will be easy. All right, the first one is really to put yourself in the user's shoes. So basically be people-centered, really starting from understanding who you are designing for. And we'll talk a little bit about that more, but it's really a fundamental of design thinking. If you cannot even identify who your user is, it's probably not a design thinking type of problem. As an example, if I am designing a IT system to be used for robots, right? It's very futuristic, but an IT system that automation can use so that people don't have to deal with it much, right? So in this case, there is no people in the system that you design. You're designing for a robot, and the robot is designed by people as well. So in that case, it's harder to use design thinking because who are you going to understand in the first place? So really think about, first of all, think about your problem. Who are the people behind it? If it's education, is it about a student? Is it about a teacher? Is it about both? Or is it about people who other stakeholders within the education ecosystem? Second principle is that it's all about collaboration. It's all about multidisciplinary collaboration. Everyone in the team bring in their very, very different perspectives so that your ideas can come from many different perspectives and have a range of good ideas. All right, and then thirdly is fail early to succeed sooner. So this is a mindset of experimentation. So whenever you're unsure about something, just prototype it out, test it out, and it might or might not work, then you can fix it, improve it, and get it better, right? And prototype doesn't mean that you might have to spend days coding, right? Here you can see in the photo, it's literally, they're designing an app, but they are using paper printer, right? Just printing the screens out, using paper as a prototyping tool. So they can actually test things within hours and then improve on their design in a matter of a day, right? So it doesn't need to be a very heavy thing. You can test in a very, very light way and keep improving. All right, so these are the 3 things, 3 fundamental principles. We will talk a bit about how to do it, but all the methods, all the tools are actually based on these 3 principles. All right, how does design thinking work? If you just Google design thinking on the internet, you will find probably a lot of different ways, a lot of different frameworks that talks about it. One of the most popular way is from Stanford Design School. It gives this like 5-step, very simple 5-step framework for design thinking. You empathize first, which means you understand your user. You define, which means you define the problem state. You really think about what to solve, and then you ideate. to have tons of ideas and then narrow down to a couple. Then you prototype, you learn, you improve, and then you test. Right. So this is like in a very, very high level. These are the steps. Today we might focus more on the first 3 steps. Partly due to time and partly due to the first 3 steps are critical in helping you to think through before you jump into thinking about prototypes. All right. The first thing I really want to talk about is asking the right questions. So this is even before you go talk to understanding your user, right? We have to, as a team, we can brainstorm a little bit about what exactly do we want to solve. And let's do a small exercise here. If you have Post-it with you and Sharpie with you, this is the time to bring out. We just need probably 2 Post-its paper. If you don't have, just use any paper, that's fine. All right. And so we'll just take 1 minute. If you can, design a vase, draw a vase on your Post-it. All right. Let's take 1 minute, starting from now. I might ask you to show it to the camera like this later. Only 1 minute, so don't overthink it. Just draw whatever comes to mind. One minute is almost up. 10 more seconds. All right. Now, can I ask everyone that has a vase on your Post-it to turn on your camera and show your vase like this? Nice. I see flowers in the vase too. Great. Wow, these 2 vases are actually, it looks quite similar in shape. Anyone else? That is awesome. Thank you so much, Bernice, Stephen, Rumi, Pasupon. I hope I pronounced your name right. Great. Awesome. So you can see that you guys have different vases, but all in kind of like curve shape, right? Some are like curved downward, some are curved upward. But it's all 4 examples that we see are all kind of long and with a similar kind of aesthetic. That's awesome. All right, let's crumble that and let's take a second Post-it, please. And now we're gonna try another one again, okay? This time, I would like you to think about, draw something that provide a better way for people to enjoy flowers in their home. All right, again, we'll have 1 minute starting now. Okay, I have about 20 seconds left. 10 seconds left. Time's up. All right, who would like to show their second post-it on the camera? Come on, let's hope to see at least 4. We had 4 people showing. Nice, thank you. It's a 2 flower with a vase. Anyone else? More flower everywhere. Ah, okay. And Rumi has a like a rectangle, almost like a pot that has soil in it. And also more flowers, right? Trevor, I see that you are sharing your camera, but I cannot see clearly. All right, I think we saw a couple of examples, but it's interesting to see that the second time around, the range become wider, right? There are not necessarily just a vase, but some people are thinking about having multiple places of flowers to enjoy in the home. Some people are thinking about more of a plant, not fresh cut flowers. So once you reframe your question that you asked, the possibilities might become broader, right? So that is a difference between asking, hey, what would a future vase look like versus, hey, what would be a future way of enjoying flower at home feels like? So we have done this activity with different audiences. Some of the surprising ones we have found is that some people were like, when we talk about enjoying flowers at home, some people were like, okay, it doesn't need to be real flowers. It can be, because the keyword is to enjoy. So it could be an element of visual and smell. So as long as the visual can be through a digital widescreen, through your TV, and the smell can be through some diffuser, and you have this feeling of enjoying the flower, right? So the possibilities become very, very wide. It doesn't need to be a vase and flower anymore to get to the goal of enjoying flower. All right, so the point of this is that when we think about the right question to ask, we really want to think about how might we provide a change for whom and for what goal, right? So in this case, is how might we provide a better way for people to enjoy flowers in their homes, and not just how might we design a vase, because that is already suggesting a very limited solution, and that restricted us to think outside the box. With a very open challenge statement, it really encouraged everyone to think, okay, how do we get to this goal creatively? All right. Okay. Now, if I ask you to design a bridge, what comes to mind? Some people might think that, oh, it's a like Golden Gate Bridge. It's, you know, with some platforms and with some suspension cable. Different images of bridge came to mind, right? What if we ask, why do we want to design a bridge? And the people that ask us to design a bridge might answer, oh, because we want a way to reach a remote island, right? So then we can reframe the challenge as, okay, how do we design a way to reach a remote island? So if I pose this question, what immediate ideas come to mind? Please put it in the text. How would you design a way to reach a remote island? Anyone? Build a bridge could be an obvious one. That's a way to reach a remote island, but what else? Tunnel. Great. And in Hong Kong, it's a very very common for us to think about underwater tunnel. Ferry, absolutely. Ferry across the water, we can even swim, right, to reach a remote island. So yeah, you can see that once we get out of the mindset of, oh, we're building a bridge and asking how do we reach, then it can open up by air, fly across. Awesome. All right, what if we now ask the person, why do you want us to build a way to reach a remote island? And this person might say, actually, because we want to send a message to people there. We want them to know something. We want to communicate something. So actually, the challenge can further be reframed to, how might we design a way to send a message to people on a remote island? So now, what would your ideas be? How will we design a way to send message to people on a remote island? Speakers, screens. Yeah, speakers and screens that are large enough so you can broadcast the communication. Internet cable, perfect, yeah. Message in a bottle. Yeah, that's a great way. Starlink, like mail. Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to send a communication, send a message now, right? So through this, airplane flyer, perfect. Yep, thanks for all the ideas. These ideas are great, and it shows that when we start with thinking of a challenge that feels like, hey, can you design a bridge? We always want to ask why. Why do we need a bridge? Or we want to get from point A to point B. Why do we want to get from point A to point B? Because we need people in A and people in B to communicate, right? So we have to keep asking, keep digging, what's the why, what's the intent behind all the challenge statements. All right, so Einstein has this famous quote of, if I have an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes to think about the problem and 5 minutes just to solve it. So thinking about the problem is the most important thing. And then 5 minutes, well, of course, we're not Einstein. We probably need more than 5 minutes to solve anything. But the point here is that really spend proper time to debate and think and reframe your challenge. All right, so you can use a lot of ways to think about what's your challenge statement, but this is a simple template if you want somewhere to start. It's blank, needs a way to what, so that what. So for example, okay, so it's like who, the user, needs a way to do what to address their needs so that what's the benefit, right? As an example, if we look at the education space, if we think about, okay, we want to solve problems for teacher and their busy life, and they always have so many scheduling pain points that they have no proper time to think about teaching and all that. So maybe it's Edwin, a computer science teacher, we want to design for a teacher like Edwin. Our need statement can be, Edwin, the computer science teacher, needs a way to see his daily meetings in digital calendar so that he has all his scheduled meeting in one place. What's wrong with this challenge statement? Or what doesn't feel quite right? Too specific, Ethan said. Yes, that's definitely one of the main concerns, especially on the blue one, right? It's seeing his daily meetings in digital calendar. It's already suggesting a solution, kind of like a vase or a bridge, right? So this is already limiting ourselves to only look at a digital calendar. So we might, if we see something like this, we might start asking questions. Why do we need to look at a digital calendar? What is the intent, right? Rumi says no space for changes. That's right. It's a little bit too limiting. So we do, if we have a challenge statement like this, we do want to rethink a little bit. So the blue one is probably where we can start in rethinking, and we could rewrite it in something like this. Edwin, the computer science teacher, need a way to better organize his meetings and class preparation so that he has time for lunch and feel energized. Right? All of a sudden, it's not necessarily about digital calendar anymore. It can be a lot of other ways to help him organize better. It can be paper-based. It can be more staff to help him, right? There's so many different ways to think about this problem. All right, so this is one of the first kind of framework or tool that I'm gonna leave it with you. The teams, feel free to use this framework when you first want to debate what your challenge statement. Okay, now second, understanding your user. This is super important in design, right? Because the first principle of design thinking is people-centered, putting yourself in the user's shoes. And I'm sure a lot of you have encountered bad design in life, and it's not, you can only feel good design when you experience what bad design is. As an example, these are taken in Hong Kong. Okay, so these are daily things that I found. For example, this door, it says pull, but how do I pull? It looks like I can only push, right? And this crazy elevator panel, I don't even know where to push anymore. What does it even mean? How so many buttons and so messy, and some numbers appear twice, some number appear only once. Where do I even press? So this is like just bizarre bad design that haven't think through who their user is and how the user is going to use it. And what about this one? This is not in Hong Kong, obviously. Hong Kong doesn't have this kind of space, but this is also a very bad design that didn't consider usage, right? How would you use this when the toilet paper is so far away? So interacting with a product that is designed well should feel like hanging out with a friend. It's just very natural, very enjoyable. It doesn't feel awkward. It doesn't make you feel that necessarily that, oh, this is awesome, great design. It might feel invisible. It just might feel so natural that it just is, right? And that is part of the goal of being very, very user-centric, is that the goal is not for the design to wow people, to catch attention. It's really to help the user get to a goal. So I think we have talked about this point a lot, but it's really about, before we make something, we need to learn about people who use it. Otherwise, it's like buying a present for someone you don't know, right? Like buying for a neighbor that you have never met, like this granny here receiving a workout pack present that is just not targeting the right user. So it's really important to find out what the user wants or need. And in order to find out what the user really are thinking, it's usually not just about what they say. You can ask your target user, oh, what do you need? Or what's your pain point? But would they really tell you? A lot of people cannot quite articulate what is wrong with a certain tool or a certain process, right? So it's also very important to understand what they think, how they feel, how they do things. And a lot of them is through talking to them, but also observing them do a certain task. People don't think what they feel and don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say. It's not to say that people would intentionally lie to you, right? It's more that it's hard sometimes for people to articulate what is wrong if they haven't been really thinking about how it's designed. So a task of a designer is really to distill that through observations, through understanding people, sometimes even through role play and putting ourselves into that role and experience it and find out what is exactly wrong with the process or the tool that they're using. And one of the key fundamentals of understanding user, it's empathy. It's to empathize with your user. Just before we start, can anyone tell me what is empathy? What does it mean to you? This word empathy. We probably heard it from many various places, but what does it exactly mean? Any wild guesses, or you already know the answer? Putting yourself in someone's place. Absolutely. Yep. Empathy is like the ability to think in another person's shoes. You guys got it. Yeah. And it's really about thinking, understanding how other person feels. Absolutely. All right. So here's another short video to explain empathy, but you guys already defined it absolutely correctly. So let's just watch this very quickly.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
All right, and that's the ability to apply empathy. It is a very, very important skill set for any good designers or any design thinking practitioners, right? So you can see in this photo here, it is a set of designers that are actually designing for baby strollers. And they realize that baby strollers are all designed from the mom's perspective, but what about the baby? Have they ever considered what the baby feels like, what the baby can see when they are in the stroller? Like, is that what really the baby, is that the best experience for the baby themselves? So in a very, very creative way, they made a human-sized stroller, and the designer actually went into the stroller and be driven around the city to feel, to just experience how it feels like to sit in the stroller that they designed, right? So and the goal of that is creating this empathy, really feel what the user is feeling, so that they can improve their design. So another, this is a work from a design school student, actually a team of design school students in Paris. So they decided on one of their school projects, they want to design bathroom for seniors. And one of the biggest pain point is that bathroom are probably the highest injury case for seniors, right? Because it's slippery, because there's no places to hold properly, and because seniors, of course, they want the privacy. So sometimes they go in on their own and without help. And so a lot of these factors make bathroom a very dangerous place for seniors sometimes. So they want to design a senior bathroom that are pleasant, that are safe, that are good, easy to use for the senior. So what they have done is that they interviewed their friends and family, like their grandma in this photo. They actually observe how the grandma navigate in the bathroom by herself, and to really feel the disability or limited in mobility in their finger motions, in their feet. They actually decided to experience it by putting a lot of tapes on their joints and put a lot of like thick gloves and trying to live like that for a day, right? And trying to peel oranges, try to go to the restroom, try to zip up their zipper by themselves. And they found it very difficult, and that gives them a new light in how to design the bathroom better. So as a result, they designed this a very, very sleek and beautiful solution for senior bathroom. And it actually got picked up by a real bathroom brand in France, and they actually brought it to market. And it has been so useful, so usable, so useful, and very simple. It actually not only sell very, very well to seniors, but also a lot of other target markets, such as young families with kids, also love the design, right? Because once you make something that's so easy to use and so safe and beautiful as well, you actually find that, okay, there's actually more people that needs it. And there's a lot of different examples around the world that we can see that have applied this empathetic approach into their design and really think about how to design for inclusion and disability, and as a result, become very, very popular with the mass population. For example, like iPad, right? When Apple first designed it, they have actually senior or less digital savvy people in mind, like the senior population or even like kids population, right? So they designed everything in like big buttons, in touch interface, and that becomes right now it's mass market. But they really start with these like extreme groups to think about the use case. So here is an example from IKEA. Let's take a look at this video.
Hi, I'm Eldel, 32 years old. Although I have cerebral palsy, I do everything I can to conduct myself like everyone else. But in my own home, of all places, I'm surrounded with furniture crying out, cripple. I'd like to sit on a regular sofa without being afraid I won't be able to get up, to open a regular closet, or even to turn on a regular lamp.
1 in every 10 people in Israel is a disabled person. The IKEA Design Vision gave birth to the Disables Project. Smart hacks making IKEA's best-selling items accessible. The project was created in collaboration with 2 NGOs, Milbot and Access Israel, and started off in the IKEA store with a hackathon of product engineers and disabled people that enabled better understanding of their needs. In the end of the developing process, 13 new products were born, each solving a different accessibility issue, such as sofa elevating legs for easier ascending, lamp button enlargement, special handles for PAX closets, and more. The new products are presented in the world's first accessible living spaces in the IKEA stores. The new models are available for download from the project's website, disables.com, and 3D printing anywhere in the world. So that Eldar, Dina, Pavel, Inbal, Moshe, Daniel, and Leah can also feel comfortable in their own homes like everybody else.
Now they should come up with products that assemble themselves. Hi.
All right. All right, so next, once we understand that empathy is a critical part, then the next question would be, how do we get started? How do we do user research? There are hundreds of ways and methods to apply empathy into design research, but today we're going to talk about just the most basic one, which is start by talking to your users. Right, apply empathy and be curious. Just get some time with them. It could be just a coffee chat. It could be half an hour online chat. That's fine as well. But some of the tips here. Firstly, really ask open-ended questions. So and always probe for the why. So for example, if you are solving for teacher Edwin that we talked about previously, right? You can ask him, tell me about your typical day, right? That is an open-ended question, and that invites him to guide the conversation to his own pain points and not guided by your question. Secondly, ask about behavior rather than attitudes. So for example, oh, what do you think about XYZ? You can change this question to, tell me about that time you did something, or recall the last time you used this tool. Can you walk me through your experience, right? So ask about that rather than, oh, do you like this? What do you think of it? And the answer might really become, yeah, it's okay. I don't know. It's fine. It gets the job done, right? Then the response you get is not very useful and it's not very empathetic. But once they start telling you how they're using it, the behavioral part of it, then you can start really getting to understand in a deeper way. Ask about past behavior, not hypothetical behavior. So a lot of times especially when we do innovative projects, we are thinking about more futuristic stuff, but it's really hard to ask end users that, hey, if there's a future digital calendar, would you use it? Right, that's hard for anyone to answer. And the answer you might get was like, oh yeah, why not? Or I guess so, maybe, but is that answer really helpful, insightful? Not really. But you can change the question to, oh, when you want to know XYZ, or when you want to achieve XYZ, what would you do? Right, so it's based on past behavior, and let them tell you how they would approach something. All right, so if at all possible, I would encourage you to get some time, even if it's a 15-20 minute chat with the end user that you are designing for, and really understand from their perspective. And there's a very simple way to help you kind of dissect their needs, and you often call it as a scenario map. It's really a customer journey mapping, but on a very high level. So for example, and it's very easy to use, and it helps us to identify the opportunities in their current experience. So let's take an example of this couple. This couple always have a dream in mind that they want a very, very nice picnic lunch in front of Eiffel Tower. Right, so this is like a dream for them. And they need to go through several phases, right? They in order to make this dream come true, they probably need to go through really thinking about planning, and then preparing, like booking tickets and packing or whatnot, and then actually flying there, actually getting into a hotel, and then get themselves to Eiffel Tower and enjoy the experience. And also after the experience, how do they capture the memory, right? So there are a lot of steps that they will go through in order to realize this dream of theirs. So at each steps in the process, they might be doing something, thinking something, and feeling something, right? So we want to capture all of the steps. For example, in the planning phase, they might be doing research. They know that they want to go to Eiffel Tower, but they might also look at, okay, where else in Europe they can tag along on this trip, or where to fly to that makes the most sense, right? So they need to do the research to prepare for the trip. And then while they're preparing and book their flights, hotels, they see that there's a lot in Paris that they want to do. They want to gather the things they want to pack up. And oh, they forgot, they need to send the cat to a pet hotel, right? So there are different things that will come up during their preparation phase that might be unexpected, that they need to solve ad hoc. And finally, the departure day, they arrive at the airport, they might feel excited, they might feel full of anticipation while they wait for the flight. They're actually experiencing this. And now they arrive at Paris, the destination, and in the back of the car, taking in the sights and the fresh air of Paris in the spring and thinking about, wow, they're finally making this come true, right? So that excitement. And finally, they get to Eiffel Tower, they live out their dream and have that picnic on the lawn in front of the Eiffel Tower, right? So this is very simple couple of steps. So for your as-is customer journey, you can very, very quickly think about what are the steps they have prepared, they have planned, they have traveled, and they got to the destination, right? So there's before, there's in between, there's after. And then you can think about what are the actions that they do in each phase. For example, in prepare, they have to read the tour guides. Maybe they need to learn some basic French. They need to find their passport, make sure the expiration date is okay, and etc. Right? Maybe right now they need to get COVID test done, and plan. They need to book a cat hotel. They need to, ask for time off if they're working or they are in school. They need to book flights. They need to pack. Travel, what are they doing? They need taxi to the airport, they need to fly, they need to go through security, etc. And destination, they need to check into the hotel, they need to ride to the tower, and they need to enjoy the moment, right, as a couple in front of the Eiffel Tower. And not only what they do, there's a lot of thinking and feeling in each steps as well, right? In the beginning, they might be thinking, oh, can I afford this? What is the budget? Oh, there are too many choices. How do I make sure I plan this well? And then towards the end, it's more about, oh, I feel excited, but also a little bit worried. And at the end, they might think that, oh, I should have taken more pictures. I hope we can keep this great memory. I hope my partner, my boyfriend or girlfriend loves it, etc. Right? So there are a lot of things going through their heads. And there are a lot of things going through their emotions as well. They can feel excited, they can feel underprepared, they can feel actually nervous, tired, they can, at some point, they can feel relieved, carefree, calm. So different emotions at different stage, right? So through talking and understanding your users, you might be able to map out a simple journey like this. After you map it out, as a team, when you discuss this, you might find out that, oh, okay, there are points in this journey that present big opportunities, either because it is a big pain point, or either that they did some workarounds that can be very much simplified, or that just that there's a gap that needs to be filled. So some good candidates here. Extra steps, looks for point of inefficiency, look for pain points, look for points of confusion, right? So these are the points that you can draw out, and then that becomes your opportunity to design for. All right, so here is a simple template. If you want to use it, it's an easy way. You can print this out, or you can just redraw this on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard and just start using just an hour just to map out as a scenario. And you can very quickly identify the biggest pain point of your user. All right. Just a reminder, any questions at any time, please feel free to use the chat box, okay? Or raise your hand, that works as well. If I don't see any questions, I'll just keep on going. All right. So the third one is about ideation. So now we have kind of think through how to frame the challenge. We have thought through our users and what are the pain points, what are the opportunities. Then the next step, we can think about what are the ideas to solve for it. All right, so ideation is really about better brainstorming. I'm sure you guys have done a lot of teamwork in brainstorming, collaborating and building, coming up with ideas and build on each other's ideas, right? So there's a lot of different form of ideation, but in general, it follows similar rules for good ideation. First of all, first rule of ideation is that don't criticize, right? Because once you criticize idea, then guess what? The teammate or even yourself, whenever you have an idea, you probably don't want to share out loud. You will have your own filter of, oh, is that stupid? Oh, is that too immature, right? So once you apply that internal lens to yourself and not letting all the new ideas flow out, it's really hard to have a good ideation session. So make sure that the team is a safe space. No idea is bad idea. Just spell out everything, all the ideas you have. Any idea is valid. And at the first couple rounds of ideation, make sure that you aim for quantity and make sure that everyone in your team understand that we're not judging if this is a good idea or bad idea. We are just aiming for, let's aim for having 100 different ideas. Let's put them on the board first and let's aim for that. And then as a team, we can think about grouping those ideas, taking them apart, putting them together again, and picking a couple of strong ideas from that pool. But you once need to have that good pool of ideas to work with. Okay, encourage wild ideas. This is also to the point that we have to think outside the box, and no ideas are too wild, right? And to idea, that is a great way to build on each other's idea. And that's exactly why we want to do this in teams. Be visual. So instead of just writing down your ideas, as much as possible, sketch it out. Or just like our vase activity, right? Design a place for, design a way for people to enjoy flower at home. Instead of writing it out, it's much easier to just sketch it out and communicate that through a visual. And give it a headline just to communicate clearly and quickly and move on, because if we have a lot of ideas, we don't want to spend too much time explaining one idea, right? So make sure the headline is very, very clear. Okay, and how do we do ideation? There's a simple way. There's so many different ways. A way that I like, a very, very simple way, Crazy 8. It only take 8 minutes. So before I explain to you, maybe I will just play this video for you to get an idea of how it works.
This is Crazy 8. And the first thing you're going to want to do is take a piece of A4 paper, just like Rob has, and fold it 3 times. So now you have 8 squares. You want to set a timer for 8 minutes. The point of this exercise is to draw one idea 8 different times. So you're spending 1 minute within each square of your page, and you're trying to take your idea and draw it in as many ways as possible. Now the moderator is going to tell you when each minute is up, and it doesn't matter where you are, you have to move to the next square. This exercise is just so great if you have the sort of, what we would call maybe writer's block or sketching block. And it's just a way to get any idea out on paper. One of the ideas would be good, and you can move forward with it. It's fast, it's fun, it's a little bit crazy, but you do really want to focus on actually getting something out of this exercise. So try not to be too insane with your doodling, but just try to always get something down on the page in every 60-second chunk. That's what's most important. This is such a great exercise to use to sketch, whether it be an interface, a new logo design, or even actually some copywriting. Make sure to always keep writing, keep drawing. If you can't think of anything, just keep your hand moving, draw a square around one of the boxes, and just keep moving. Just keep moving. So it's important to remember that, of course, this piece of paper is yours. You don't have to show it to anyone. It's just for you to be proud of what you've accomplished and hopefully to have gotten some inspiration so that when you're moving to do your full concept sketch, you have something to go off of. If you're doing this exercise on your own, all you have to do is make sure you have a timer that will buzz after 60 seconds and you can switch to the next square. It's so important to keep this time limit because that's what makes it Crazy 8.
All right, so that is Crazy 8. And it's so simple because you only need paper and pen. And the reason that I really like it is because, first of all, the simplicity of it, and secondly, the time pressure of it. And I encourage all the teams to try out either by yourself or with the team together, and it's a lot of fun. And the first couple of minutes, the first 4 minutes, right? It's probably easier because the obvious ideas come out first. And then the next 4 blocks becomes harder and harder, and you really need to push yourself to think outside of the box very, very fast and without overthinking it, right? And just put whatever comes to mind down on paper, and it's quite refreshing. And then you can do another round of Crazy 8 and it will get easier and easier. And you'll see that you can do 2 rounds and that's only 16 minutes. And as a group, you can have a handful of, say, 30, 40 ideas already to work with, right? So it's a very, very effective way to do ideation. All right, so this is the template. You can print this out, or you don't need to. You just literally get a piece of blank paper and fold it so that you have 8 spaces. It's as easy as that. So putting it into context, back to the example that we talked about earlier on this teacher, right? Edwin, the computer science teacher that needs a way to better organize his meetings and class preparation so that he has time for lunch and be energized. So this was our kind of challenge statement that we talked about earlier. And then as an example, maybe we decided that we go interview teacher Edwin to find out, to just have a chat with him and observe his whole day at school, a typical day at school, and find out with empathy what his pain points are. So we might do a ASIS journey like below, and really map out the steps, like before class starts, morning classes, lunchtime, afternoon class, school ends, end of day, and in each steps, what is he doing, what is he thinking, what is he feeling, right? So we might map everything out and found out, oh, our challenge statement was about, the goal was for him to enjoy lunchtime, but after we talked to Edwin, we found out that it's actually more than that. It's not just he doesn't have time to enjoy lunch and feel energized. It's that the whole day, it's so tiring, so exhausting because of a lot of different tasks and aspects of his job that he needs to balance and constantly juggle, right? So we might kind of relook at our challenge statement and even broaden it further. And through the journey steps, we might found that, okay, one of the biggest pain point, the biggest frustration point is actually more towards the end of the day, right? When the school is about to end. So here he has to keep up with a lot of administrative duties of his. For example, he had to keep up with the attendance registry. He has to follow up a lot of documentation to archive into different students' files and whatnot, right? And what is going through his mind is just that, this admin stuff is really eating my brain out. I feel so overwhelmed. I need to do it every day. It feels so repetitive. And at the end of the day, I still need to check in with some families. I just feel that I'm forever running behind and I feel tired and frustrated, right? And that end of the day makes my next day even harder to wake up to. And that is maybe through this journey mapping, we found out that actually improving this end of the day experience can drastically help Edwin, right? So maybe that is the opportunity that the team identified. Then you can use this opportunity, like how might we help Edwin have a better experience in the afternoon and end of day to wrap up his school day, and really thinking about the pain points here. And everyone just grab a piece of paper, let's do Crazy 8, right? So that is a thinking process that we really want all the teams to think through step by step. So if we have time, we would do this Crazy 8 activity together, but I think we are probably a little bit short. I do want to leave time in the end for more questions or any discussions from the audience. So I'll leave this activity to yourself and your team. The video that we just watched said that you can do it as your own activity. You don't need to share with anyone, and that's perfectly fine. How we usually use it is we do it as a team together. We set the timer together in almost like a game that the team play, and it's a lot of fun. So either way you want to do it, that's fine. And after the team do it together, we put everything on the wall. If you do it virtually, you can put everything on a slide and then share it like that. And everyone have a chance to share all their ideas. Once they share, other teammates can build on top of their ideas and make the ideas even better and stronger. After the discussion and the debate and maturing the ideas as a team, you can even do a quick voting. So you can see here in this photo, right, there are green dots. Those are the votes from the team members. So you, at the end of the day, in this exercise, the team down selected 2 strongest ideas from the ideation session that they might want to take forward to prototype to make, right? So this is a very, very quick way to kind of narrow down to 1 or 2 ideas to take forward. All right. So let's do a bit of recap of what we covered today. First of all, design thinking. On the very, very high level, it is about solving problem like designers, meaning applying a creative lens, applying a human-centered lens to solve user problems. And just think about the difference between different approach between these 2 images, right? One is a state-of-the-art, award-winning piece of equipment, but not really, the adoption rate is very low because it didn't consider usability by the target user, which is children. The second one is designing the whole experience that is suitable for children to use and have a very delightful experience. The principles that we talked about, people-centered, collaboration, working as a team, bringing in different perspectives, and continuous experimentation, like continuously test, prototype, and change your design, improve on your design. All right, so we also talked about the Stanford Design School 5 building blocks, and then today we covered the first 3: empathize, define, and ideate. For prototype and test, we might, throughout your other workshops, you might get to learn a little bit more about that and how to build prototypes, for example. Right, the 3 steps to get you started that we went through. One is to ask the right question. How do you frame a challenge that is not too limiting and really get to the intention of the challenge? Secondly is understanding your user, right? So to apply empathy, you can talk to them, you can observe them, or you can role play in their shoes and try to identify the pain points. You can use the journey as this journey mapping to kind of map out their emotions and their actions, identify pain point that way. And thirdly, after you know exactly what you are designing for, what are the opportunities, you ideate as a team. You aim for quantity. You want a lot of ideas. I would say you want at least 3 dozen of ideas to start with, and then you can start to think about narrowing down. All right, for prototype and test, as I mentioned before, you might have more exposure to it in other workshops in different ways of building and prototyping. Okay, things to help you this week. Just as a summary, here's a framework for you to use. This is for your challenge statement. Blank needs a way to do what? So that, what's the benefit, right? So the user needs a way to do something to benefit the user directly. The second one, we didn't go through this in detail, but I'm still putting this one in here. It's a project rundown. It's a little bit more detailed format than the challenge statement, but it's a great way for you to think through your problem. So it is this, basically you fill in the blanks, right? Our project team is called, this is a great way to just give your team a name, and it can be silly. It doesn't need to, you don't need to overthink it too much. Give yourself a name. It's kind of like what? Who are the person or the group who uses it is whom? Teacher, student, or whom? Currently, they struggle because what pain point? In a perfect world, they would be able to do what? This is awesome for what? This is awesome for education or whatever the goal is, because of what, right? So as an example, this is a real project that people do for Cisco. It's about employee enablement. So for new employees that just joined Cisco and thinking through what their experience could be. So they fill in a project rundown like this. So I'm just gonna read it out, right? What is the team? Our team is Cisco E-Square, employee enablement. It's kind of like first day in a new house. The users are new hires or existing employees. They currently struggle to find information. They're spread out. Accessibility to information is very low, and they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to plan and take action, right? So in a perfect world, this should be a quick setup. It should be guided. It should be sense events, and it could know when things are broken, right? So you can use this to further think through what your challenge should achieve. The other framework we talk about is this as a scenario map. This is also a template that you can use. Think through the steps, think through what the users are doing, thinking, and feeling, right? And then just map everything out first, and then identify what are the biggest pain point or gaps or if inefficiencies in this map. And then lastly, it's a crazy 8. Just 8 boxes, or you can use 8 Post-it, right? It doesn't really matter. As long as you get to the point of it's time boxed, it's quick, and just get all your ideas out. All right, so these, I think it's available as templates if you want to download them on our Teams. If not, you can also just draw it on a blank paper. All right, I do want to leave some time for questions. So we have about 7 minutes left. That's all the material for today. Any questions or any comments, any reflections, feel free to share in the chat room, or raise your hand or just turn on your camera and mic and just chime in. We're gonna wait probably 1 minute.
Oh, I think someone unmuted. Bo Yun, did you have a question? Yeah, no need to be shy. You can ask a question if you have one.
We have a quiet group today, huh?
Indeed. I think if no one has any questions, we just have to like to say thank you, Jennifer, so much. It was an extremely comprehensive one, and that if other people who are also going to watch the recordings have any questions, either we would direct them to you, or we'll try and answer them from the CISX Ideas team. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Jennifer, thank you so much once again. And yeah, everyone just, I don't know, react with like an applause emoji or something to show your appreciation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good luck on everyone's hackathon, and reach out if you need anything, if you have any questions after this session. I'm happy to be connected and answer and have a discussion. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.